Massachusetts is a shit state politically. And it is. By the way, did you see the email from our caller and the guy who sent us a message a couple years ago?
I saw it, but I didn't get a chance to read it. I saw that you sent it.
That sucks. Like, we live in a state that sucks. And it's terrible. In many ways, it's just amazing how bad it is. But this is the state senator from the Senate Majority Leader. I'm going to go downstairs, get a gun, and shoot that dog in the head.
Why don't you call Sally and ask her to let the dog out?
She's right next to the dog, as a matter of fact. She's right there next to the dog. The dog is probably making noise because it wants something from her. Exactly. Hold on. Oh, that felt so good. Oh, that would be great. Okay, so this is the Senate Majority Leader for the state of Connecticut. He was just a total milquetoast prick. This is him today yelling at American voters because every state is doing this now, where the local Democrats are talking about all the stuff that state funding that people are dying. He actually said, at one point, he lives in like Greenwich. He lives in a very nice town. He's like, my next door neighbor who was down the street from me is somebody who worked for NIH, who works in sciences, and just told me, guess what? I just got laid off, and we don't know what we're going to do. This is real, people. It's like, so this is a lab engineer who works in medical, lives in Greenwich, Connecticut, and feels like they're guaranteed a job with the federal government. Freaking give me a freaking...
All these people who work for the federal government think that yours and my tax money is their personal fund to be guaranteed income and everything else so that they can live in Greenwich, Connecticut, and we don't.
Here's Bob Duff.
If there's so much waste in our government, where is Elon Musk testifying that in Congress today? There is none. They have yet to be able to show anything.
He actually said that again as well. He said there's no waste. There's no waste. Now, Connecticut, if he's talking about federally, that there absolutely is waste. If he's talking about Connecticut itself, this is a state where the director of the state's colleges just got in trouble, who makes $400,000 a year, who just got a $30,000 stipend to move to Connecticut, which he did not do. Just spent $40,000 on martinis and steak on his state taxpayer credit card and was not even censured for it.
Right.
Just apologize. My bad. But there's no waste.
No.
I mean, these people, it's amazing how entitled they feel. All of the things that I walk into and all of these people and all of the new hires are must-needed personnel. These are, what's it called, personnel that has to show up in during pandemics, or has to show up during
essential employees.
Essential personnel. Freaking amazing. So,
well, but once again, they're unaware that in the private sector, people who make a lot of money in the private sector make a lot of money because a company is freely, through their own free will, choosing to pay them to do that job because they want that person there.
Well, right.
Every job that's funded by the taxpayer is funded at gunpoint.
Yes, absolutely, you're right.
And so
you're right.
And is formed by committee of people who have no skin in the game. Our elected leaders feel absolutely no compunction to take good care of our tax dollars. They are, all of them, wealthy, mostly not deservedly. And that's what's crazy, is that none of them is struggling financially. None of them has to worry. They get the most fabulous health care. They live in beautiful neighborhoods in the Washington, D.C. area, or, they have an apartment in D.C. where they hook up with a chick on weekends and then they go home to their district and live in a nice house there. Whatever it is, they're all wealthy, and they vote on this stuff to make their friends in D.C. also wealthy, at the expense of people who essentially have no say in the process. because the only choices of people to elect is more wealthy people or people who are going to become wealthy at taxpayer expense. And that's what makes them so mad about Elon Musk, right? And the people that are mad about that are people who either, like this guy's friend in Greenwich, Connecticut, are personally getting rich from it, or they're friends with and hang out around faculty lounges and DC clubs with the people who are getting wealthy from it. So this is what's happening, is that the people who are freaking out about waste, fraud, and abuse in the government are doing so because the people that they hang around with are not getting to do their grift anymore.
You're right. And there was a great cut. I don't know if we have it. There was a great cut with Bessent, Secretary Bessent, where he talked about the law firms that DOGE found were on retainer and who were getting like a huge amount of all of their income from the government contracts, which are 6 month contracts, which you can re-up 40 times.
And, you know, there was a big brouhaha about Donald Trump, like, punishing these law firms, like, whatever, is it Perkins Coie or something?
Yes.
Yeah, these ones that went after him with the dossier stuff and everything. Oh, this is unfair. He's punishing their free speech. He's punishing them for this and that and the other thing. They're not guaranteed government contracts. He just said they can't have government contracts anymore.
Right.
Unless they fire people who were involved in this, and unless they do pro bono work for, like, MAGA causes. You know, they're not... These law firms, when they... You know how, like, lawyers do pro bono work? They're doing that largely for left-leaning causes. They're doing pro bono, quote-unquote, work, which the company considers like a donation, essentially, to these left-wing causes. And then they get government contracts on top of it, charging huge rates so that they can then fund pro bono work for left-wing causes. It's insane.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane. The grift and the insanity. Fortunately, the lawyers are all going to be made obsolete by AI, so that's nice. But these big law firms, they are absolutely just living off taxpayer expense in order to fund more work for causes that they feel like doing stuff for without, you know, making money from that.
Absolutely.
So it's like the taxpayer gets it on both ends.
Yeah.
We're funding our own demise, just like we're giving to all these programs for, like, queer theater in Ecuador or whatever stupid things we're doing. We fund it everywhere. We fund it by paying things like we're funding Politico. And oh no, the government agencies need to pay for Politico Pro. It's an important expense that of course it is. Of course it is. Sure. Okay. That's nice. I mean, go pay for it on your own time if it's so important to you. It's insane. It's insane that everyone in the Washington, D.C. area gets to get rich off the taxpayers with zero oversight.
Turning its attention to massive government contracts, and consulting firms are scrambling to justify their funding. Hillary Vaughn is following all of this. Hillary?
Hi, Dagan. Well, these firms have just a week to write their own report card. The General Services Administration sending a letter to top consulting firms telling them to grade themselves on how exactly they are spending billions in taxpayer cash. The letter saying they need to, quote, identify each related contract and project and further break down spending by functional category in simple layman terms. A 15-year-old should be able to understand what service you provide and why it is so important. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said the chokehold these consulting firms have on government spending has shocked him the most since he moved to D.C. and started opening up the books.
One of the biggest surprises for me is just seeing how these entrenched interests just keep constricting themselves around the power, around the money, around the systems, and nobody cares. Many of the employees are fantastic. It's this consultant group who has they're like a boa constrictor, they're like a python. They've got themselves
no pun intended.
One of the great things when you're a consulting group, and I've been a consultant, and one of the great things is if somebody's bringing in a consultant, if a company's bringing in a consulting group, that means it's in a field that they don't know anything about, which puts you in the catbird seat totally, because you're speaking the language they don't understand. You're the only one who speaks the language, and they pay you top dollar for it.
And
It is
because elected officials and their other government employees that like actually work for the government are, by and large, many of them, what's a word I can say without getting canceled? Not the brightest. There's a lot of fields that they know nothing about. Like, think back to the Obamacare website. How many gazillions of dollars did that company get that made the non-working Obamacare website? Remember that? Like,
yeah, CMS, yeah.
That's insane. And no private company would survive like a debacle like that, like giving a contract to a firm and not checking up on what they were doing.
Not for nothing, but I think that's the same firm who either cut or tried to or was made to cut Sal DeMacy, who was the president of the Senate, Sal DeMacy in Massachusetts. He was a bigwig 15 years ago, anyway. And they wanted to be the vendor, so what do? You shake them down. I think they were happy to play along.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the game that these people play. They have friends in these companies, and they just hand out money to people, right? And this isn't government, but that's why, like Elizabeth Holmes is in jail, and she had investors and other people who were at some point in their careers involved in government. Like, who was the general or somebody?
No, it was George Shultz, former Secretary of State for Reagan.
Right. So, but that's the way all these people like this work. This like consultant class, people who sit on boards of things and go around. Many of them are in a revolving door with government, right? And, Elizabeth Holmes tells these people, and they have credibility because they're serious people and, important serious government officials that are telling you, oh, this is my friend and he's great and his company's great and this and that, and they all trust each other, and they don't do any checking of anything. They're idiots.
No, well, absolutely.
They're morons,
and then the law firm, obviously, the law firm has skybox suites at the Washington Nationals game, if that's what they're called, and suites at Fenway Park. And they bring all these clients in. They bring Elizabeth Holmes and George Shultz in and get everybody drunk. And it's a good deal for everybody. It is.
Right. And so,
especially when the skybox they can afford because the government contracts.
Right. Splash in the chat says he works alongside the EPA, and there's insane backlash over decommissioning the EPA museum that costs $600,000 a year to maintain and costs $4 million to build and has been visited by under 2,000 people in a year.
That is great. That is fantastic. Oh, God, when did they build that, I wonder?
Yeah,
that's great.
I've literally never heard of the EPA museum, but that just tells you, imagine how many people with big fat degrees were employed by the EPA museum. And then they get to say that they're in, Lee Zeldin shut it down. There we go. That's great. Yeah. The chat likes him and Scott Messer.
If you were to visit the museum located here at EPA headquarters in D.C., you would learn a lot about the road to environmental justice and climate change.
Oh.
This museum claims EPA pursues its mission by advancing environmental justice, equity, and civil rights compliance.
Oh, my goodness.
A timeline of key events conveniently omits any mention of President Trump's first administration. I'm currently standing inside of this museum, which was built and curated by the Biden administration with $4 million in taxpayer dollars.
How great is that?
It's great. And not only that, I'll do you even one better than this. So these places, these organizations get government contracts and and grants. I'm sure they employ lots of grant writers to write grants, right?
Of course.
So they get all this government money, all these non-governmental organizations through these various programs. They pay people to work there. And then guess what else? Through the public service student loan forgiveness programs, we get to pay back the people's student loans. So we thereby enrich then all the colleges that taught these people all this idiocy with these fake scammy degrees.
What a nice club to be part of.
Listen to this, because this was a news story that blew my mind that CNBC thinks is proving something completely different than what it proves. CNBC.com, April 2, 2025. This 35-year-old was 29 months away from getting her $247,804.
Yes. Time out.
Yes.
First of all, you look good in black. I know you do, and you already said, I said before the show, Alice, you look good in black. She said, I know.
Well, that's because people look at him black because they're fat.
Okay,
That's why I said I know.
So no, that's not what you said. And then so I just wanted to get that out there. I say that because there's a few things that I love about you, and one is obviously is that you're attractive. That's the big one.
Thank you.
That's it. And then 2 is that you make deviled eggs. 3 is that your radar doesn't miss much because actually, I heard Howie talk about this, Howie Carr, an hour and a half ago, and flagged it in my mind to remember to bring it up, and I didn't. But you got it organically. Good for you, kid.
Wow.
Go ahead. Start again.
This 35-year-old was 29 months away from getting her $247,804 student debt forgiven. Now she's stuck.
Oh my, she's stuck.
She's stuck.
I don't understand.
You and I were gonna give her $250,000, but now
Wait a minute. So I assume the college took her money and then closed down, like Trump University, and closed down and left town.
Aubrey Bertram was starting to imagine her life without student debt.
Beautiful.
Bertram, a staff attorney at an environmental conservation organization in Montana,
How perfect is that?
had just around 2.5 years left of payments before her $247,804 federal student loan balance would be excused under the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. But for many months now, she's been frozen on her timeline to that relief. We're not getting credit, said Bertram, 35. This time has been devastating. She took out her loans in law school knowing she'd work in public service and pursue PSLF. That was the only way taking on this debt made any sense, said Bertram. I wouldn't have borrowed $250,000 if I thought I was going to have to pay it back. It was you who were supposed to pay it back.
You people who aren't doing the important work of saving the world, you pay it back.
I'm saving the environment, which is a service to you, so you're going to pay my $250,000.
And you have to do that. You probably don't know, but carrying this debt for me, where, by the way, I'm making good money as an attorney, which I'm not sharing with you.
Making good money probably also from government grants and contracts,
yes,
I assume, in some way or
other.
other.
I won't be sharing with you. I have this debt, so I now feel stress. And that stress has to be transferred from me to you.
Yeah.
Because I'm Aubrey Bertrand. And I'm a special person. And I went to school for 7 years, and they told me I was.
Millions of other student loan holders are in the same frustrating limbo now. After Republican-led legal challenges blocked the Biden administration's new repayment plan in the summer of 2024.
What a way to put that.
After Biden's illegal student loan forgiveness.
Republican-led legal challenges. Can you imagine that? Like, by the way, the legal challenges were ratified quite loudly by the Supreme Court, saying you can't just transfer debt from these people to the rest of the people. When this person, Aubrey, received her goods and services. Her 7 years worth of goods and services, Aubrey received.
Yeah. Many federal student loan borrowers who enrolled in the Biden administration era saving on a valuable education plan remain in forbearance as a result of GOP-led legal challenges to the program. But unlike the COVID era pause, this forbearance does not give borrowers credit towards debt forgiveness. Historically, plans limit borrowers' monthly payments to a share of their discretionary income and cancel any remaining debt after a certain period, typically 20 or 25 years. PSLF, which President George W. Bush signed into law in 2007, allows certain not-for-profit and government employees to have their federal student loans wiped away after 10 years of payments. In the end, we may see borrowers lose over a year of monthly payments to count towards forgiveness, said Elaine Rubin, Director of Corporate Communications at Advisors, which helps students navigate college costs and borrowing, which I'm sure we also frigging somehow pay them, somehow taxpayer money, to explain to students how they can scam the system and borrow more money to get stupid degrees that do not benefit society and are a net drain on all of us, so that we can then pay them to be in, quote, public service, so that we can then pay back their student loans when they're done. So, like, the taxpayers get scammed 7 different freaking ways while 11 other people get rich. It's so insane. It's so nuts. So So yeah, I mean, this goes on about the way this article goes on. For now, Bertram has decided to stay put in the save forbearance, even though she's not closer to debt forgiveness. She's worried she'll be switched into a new repayment plan, only to find the program has also been halted or amended. You're constantly being jerked around by political rhetoric, Bertram said. I just hope I'm student debt-free before I'm 40.
Amazing. I feel like I'm being jerked around. That's Bob Duff's neighbor down the street. I can't believe it. I have my NIH job. My important... Wait, why do the realities that affect all the other Americans, suddenly I'm affected by them too? And you can imagine that this person was absolutely working from home. All the COVID stuff they got. The rest of us, during COVID got huge pay cuts. Mm-hmm. And then we're jerked around by mortgage companies and other people who left Alice and I bigger and bigger sizable envelopes with certified mail on our front door. Like, Jesus freaking people. Oh, they suck so bad. They suck so bad. Is that what we had for DOGE? Okay, so today was the rollout of the
it's Liberation Day.
Liberation Day. Oh, well, okay. I had a piece of audio. I'll play it later. I'll play it during the gap.
During the gap?
The gap.
When I'm going to pop out?
You gap when you pop out.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm plugging the hole. So,
Trish in the chat says, why do I have to pay my student loans? Don't you know I'm Aubrey, public servant?
That's exactly right, though.
Yeah.
It's exactly right.
I never would have borrowed $250,000. I was supposed to pay it back. Jeez, what do you think this is?
I've been listening to, like I said, I've been listening to NPR on the mornings, dropping my daughter off. Because it's that or the biggest idiot in the history of talk radio. So they're doing the begging now. The begging is coming hard and heavy now. Not only are they doing the begging, saying, if you appreciated programming like that, they're talking about the services for our most marginalized communities, then please remember, we only bring you these factual stories due to the hard work of reporters. We all depend upon taxpayers like you. And even though it's a small amount, it's a difference between bringing you stories and not bringing you stories. So, yes, it's absolutely crucial that they not get cut off from public taxpayer money, but they don't really need it. But it's crucial that you don't need it.
Do you remember,
and now they have these pre-recorded things from WBUR saying, this is Mary Downey Melcarin. Everybody's hyphenated as hell, who is a WBUR listener and frequent donor as well. And she'll say, oh, I come to WBUR, that's NPR in Boston. I come to NPR because I find that I get the news that's balanced there, and I get both sides. A lot of times, life's moving fast, and I don't have time to get informed, and that's why I come to NPR. And you know what? These are all people who are. These are recorded on microphones. These testimonials to how important it is.
So they brought people in.
They brought people in. They brought everybody's friend in.
And they probably had 6 producers creating that spot.
Absolutely. When I went in to do my Carlos Watson thing at PBS. They were like, Tom, do you have anybody who can be part of the studio audience? Doesn't matter. Anybody you work with, family members, doesn't matter. Whoever you have, please have them come in. And it's the same thing. This is like anybody, fake testimonials. It's all BS. The fact that they had, they still do. If you ever drive through Boston, up I-90 west towards the city, right around Brighton, Massachusetts, you will see hanging over in front of you is the PBS station. With a big LED thing. It's the biggest media facility probably in the Northeast. And it's the one that gets public money. And it's the one that's an absolute mouthpiece for leftist content. And only leftist content. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And not even, it would be one thing to be a mouthpiece for leftist content that nobody cares about, but they also do it, in the least efficient possible way. Do you remember that podcast that was, the Queer People of Color podcast?
The one where they got turned.
The one where they got turned,
yes.
Exactly. And then we listened to the credits thing, and it was a joke. We were like, there's probably so many executive and assistant producers on this. And then we played it, and we couldn't actually even believe it. because it was so absurd how many people were involved in making this one podcast. It's so nuts. Like, do they not realize that there's podcasts all over the place? And I wouldn't even use us as an example because we don't even do a very good job. But, like, the Barstool Sports podcasts don't have that level of...
No
and those
way.
are the biggest podcasts in the world. In the world. I mean, even, like, you know, something like Call Her Daddy probably has a fair amount of producers now, but I think still not as many as those people had.
I have to. No, hell no.
Nobody has all those producers. It's nuts. I mean, like, Kirk Minihane.
I'm sorry, I just went to the NPR website.
Dave Cullinane, and one NPR podcast that nobody listens to comparatively has like 17 freaking producers. It's the most insane thing in the world. Like, they're the least efficient media company. That was actually, do you remember that movie that we saw? That was like...
Hold on, I just want to tell you.
Yeah.
I went to the npr.org website because I want to see that, if I can find that same podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, I get a pop-up window comes up. It says, your gift isn't just a donation, it's a declaration. Calls to defund public media are getting louder. Now is the time to join the community of supporters that make this work possible. Every dollar you give strengthens this essential public service. Essential public service for the road ahead.
I think it's this louder than a riot.
Oh, is it? Can you donate? It's amazing. Amazing. These people. Amazing. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, louder than a riot. Hip hop emerged from the voices of the unheard, but freedom doesn't ring the same for everyone. Inside all corners of culture, Black women and queer folk have dealt with the same oppression the music was built to escape. Season 2 of Louder Than a Riot examines who hip-hop marginalizes and how misogynoir, the specific racist misogyny against Black women, is embedded in the fabric of the culture that we love. I think it was that.
Did we have the debut podcast?
I don't remember.
Let me see if this was it.
NPR informs and connects communities around the country, providing reliable information in times of crisis.
A warning before we begin. This podcast is explicit in every way. Okay, so this is the Bronx Music Heritage Center. It's giving very much Bronx. After school, painted piano, drum set, community center vibes, posters everywhere. Good crowd, cute crowd. We're the youngest people in here.
Definitely the youngest people in here.
I'm here with my producer, Mano Sondarisen, to see a Bronx hip-hop legend. There's a small crowd in the community center.
I think it is. Go to
Grandmaster Kaz of the Cold Crush Brothers.
I want to get to turns.
Cutting it up on the
Is this the
turntables.
same show?
Yeah.
As we make the rounds to get a sense of who's here,
Although it's March 2023.
we see an
does that
older
make
white
sense?
man in the front row.
What's her name?
2 years.
Charles Tellerant.
And what do you know about Sha Rock?
I was really into hip hop, but I got into it later. I didn't know about her. I thought Shantae was the first, but Sha Rock was.
No, this one was
Kaz fades out the music and
I'm not
people
sure
start
it's the same
quieting down.
episode.
Okay, I'll just go to the end then.
Let's see how many producers this thing has.
It's a fight that's just as historic as being the first female MC. It's a claim to fame.
It was about the heart and soul.
Sha Rock definitely is in the house.
You ever heard of Sha Rock?
And Mano Sundaresan.
Joan.
Here we go.
The boy from the Bronx is in the house.
We're at 49 minutes. The thing is,
Kaz definitely is in the house.
54 minutes, I think.
Sha Rock is remembered. Someone always has something to say. Everybody has a comment on your body. It's like, if you're natural, they're talking about
The woman's body specifically.
This episode was written by myself, Sydney, and Mano Sundaresan.
And it was produced by Mano Sondarisen. Our senior producer is Gabby Bulgarelli.
And our producers are Sam J. Leeds and Mano Sundaresan. Our editor is
Mano is
Suresh
multitasking.
Shaki, and our engineer is Gilly Moon. Our senior supervising producer is Sheriff Vincent. Our interns are Jose Sandoval, Teresa Shia, and Pilar Galvan.
And the NPR execs are Keith Jenkins, Yolanda Sanguini, and Anya Grunman.
Original theme by Casa Overall. Remix by Susie Analog. And the scoring for this episode was provided by Susie Analog and Casa Overall.
Our digital editor is Jacob Gans. Our fact checkers are Sarah Knight and Jane Gilbin. If you want to learn...
Are you being accurate about MC Sharrock?
Heaven
MC
forbid.
Sharrock's story, check out her autobiography, Luminary Icon, the story of the beginning and end of hip-hop's first female...
Anyway, they should all be fired, obviously.
Yeah.
We don't need any...
Pepper is our fact checker.
Yes. We don't need to get... Actually, the chat is our fact checker. Yeah, we don't need to get turns.
All right. I'm going to refocus the camera on you, and then I'm going to go pick up our son.
Okay. Well, I happen to be prepared this time for this eventuality. All right. I wanted to get to... we were talking about the... And when Alex gets back, we'll hit the Day of Liberation. But there's a couple more things. Your hair looks nice. I know. There's a couple... I wanted to get to this... more of the DOGE stuff and the scrutinizing they're getting and how sucking CNN is now. Scott Walker, former governor of Wisconsin, is on CNN. And listen to how he has to fact-check this lady instantly. This is Gabby, whatever. Attractive, but not brilliant.
He came to the state. He talked about cutting Medicaid, Social Security through DOGE, bringing those issues up.
Actually, he never talked. He explicitly said in Green Bay that he would not cut Social Security.
Well,
that's exactly what he said.
Talked at his rallies.
No, other people said about that, but I was there. I watched him.
Okay.
He did not say he was going to cut Medicaid.
Other people at his rallies who work for DOGE, who work for Elon Musk's organization, talked about those issues.
No, I was at the rally. Not one of them said that. That's what protesters said, but nobody there actually said that.
Do you think that there are risks here?
There are. If people believe the lies that people are saying about that.
Being associated,
but that's not at all what they said. If people believe that Medicaid and Medicare is going to be touched, that's just a flat, outright lie. What he talked about are people who are over 120 years old, who clearly are not alive.
Well, the reason I brought it up is
Social Security or Medicaid.
Okay,
the reason I brought it up,
totally wrong. I think
just to sort this out.
I love it. I love it. She just goes up.
Is because
put it aside.
The claim here is that there's massive, widespread fraud, and that's all they're addressing. That's obviously a disputed claim because it's not true that 120-year-old people are getting Social Security checks. The checks stop at a certain point automatically because those checks and balances
but those Social Security numbers get counted for various parts of the federal government. So they count, they don't get a benefit directly to those people, but they count for money that gets allocated to different departments in their budget. And they shouldn't be. If somebody is no longer alive, they shouldn't be able to count that.
I guess my fundamental question was, what are the risks here of Elon dabbling in elections for Republicans going forward?
Well, again, I think in the end, he's going to have to continue to make the case. Part of the reason why when we talked about our recall, what flipped things for us early on in that recall process, Time magazine called me Dead Man Walker. And the reason was because all the narratives coming out from the press, coming out from the left, were about all these horrible, egregious things. Once we started to give examples of the things we were actually doing, not the things the press said, not the things that our opponent said, but the things that we were actually doing, when we ended up going before the voters in the final election in the recall, we actually won by more votes than we did. So I think that what's paramount for him or anyone else aligned with him is keep giving actual examples of what they're doing. Set aside things like Social Security and make it abundantly clear that that's not being touched. But if there's waste, fraud, or abuse, spell it out, make the case, and bring it to the voters.
It's amazing that CNN is still this. This is the entity they are, and they don't really even care. They're just so absolutely angry and so beside themselves that the establishment is being pushed around. And it's the same thing with what we said about the that establishment class of people who are like with law firms and all that stuff. It's like it's just an amazing thing. This is Callie Means. This is a guy who is a special government employee. I think he's a DOGE guy, essentially, a special employee to RFK Jr. And he talks about these entrenched lobbyists and the corruption that they have. This is making its way around today. This is freaking awesome.
When you turn on CNBC, it's just a nonstop. It's a nonstop infomercial for pharma. It's a Sky Rizzi commercial followed by Scott Gottlieb saying how Bobby's killing people, followed by a breathless coverage of the measles outbreak and no mention of
the mental health crisis. How does cutting a bunch of HHS solve that problem?
It is insane It is insane for you to insinuate that the thing standing between us and better health is more government bureaucrats. Like
That's not what I meant. That's not what I'm insinuating.
That is what everyone's saying. It is absolutely insane to insinuate that it's some crime.
It's not all bureaucrats. It's a lot of scientists. It's researchers. It's people who are making sure that.
Can you imagine still believing, still having faith in institutions like that? Like she's saying, oh, it's not all bureaucrats, scientists. There's nobody with a halo anymore. They're all activists. They're all grifters, unless you can convince me that they're not. But COVID did it. So, no, a lab coat is a disreputable thing. Now, it is not a reputable thing. Being a doctor is a disreputable thing, with few exceptions that I'm seeing, certainly. And anybody who was involved in selling the COVID BS has zero credibility.
Scientists fundamentally have overseen, just demonstrably, a record of utter failure. It would be insane. Is that funny? Is that not true? I'd love to hear how. So what metrics would you guys point to for how the scientific community, how the 4 times more per capita on healthcare spending that we spend in America versus other countries has produced innovation? Has there been one single chronic disease medication in modern American history that has lowered rates of the chronic disease? It is appropriate that the American Academy of Pediatrics right now, which is 90% funded by pharma, is pushing Ozempic on 6-year-olds. That is what the medical authorities are doing.
And by the way, this is Politico, which, as we know, got a huge chunk of money from the government as well.
Why?
Like the idea that, Bobby Kennedy should not come in and make dramatic changes to the leadership and the personnel at these authorities that have overseen an abject devastation of American health, which the lobbyists in this room do not have the humility to admit that we have gone completely wrong. The lobbyists in this room laughing when we have the sickest children in the developed world. If that is your attitude, and your attitude is to tell the Maha moms that their votes and their voice is not legitimate, that we need dramatic changes to American health care, if you think it is illegitimate for Bobby Kennedy to not make big changes to people like Peter Marks, who once again and again went against FDA advisory opinions, who fired the 2 top vaccine makers, the 2 top vaccine scientists at the FDA for suggesting that we shouldn't mandate COVID shots for soldiers, who continually went against expert opinion in favor of the pharmaceutical industry, who many people here were collaborating with him with. The fact that somebody like that can't be fired and he can't install tremendous people like Marty McCary and Jay Bhattacharya and Dr. Oz to start reforming these agencies and put in their people, of course he should do that. That's what people voted for.
So I think the question, though, is a lot of dynamic responses.
A lot of people that profit from kids being sick.
But let me ask you this.
Fundamentally, what Bobby has done is taken over a department that has utterly failed.
Becoming healthier can be expensive. Right now in America, getting food that is better for you costs more, and it is such a barrier for lower income Americans that also have the worst health outcomes. So how are you planning to bring down the cost of being healthier in America?
These institutions, by the way, told lower income Americans that the food pyramid was the way to go. Heavy pasta, heavy starches, little protein. They pushed Doritos on people. Break.
One thing Bobby Kennedy is not going to do is entertain comments from food industry lobbyists using food prices as an excuse to continue poisoning children. Like, that's not going to work. And I know a lot of you guys are doing that. And I think if you really back up, that's an evil argument. That's the only argument the food industry is making right now. They're trying to hold a gun on food prices to literally not even dispute the premise that Americans are being poisoned. We have 10,000 chemicals in our food that are not allowed in any other country. There's a lot of lobbying to actually prevent even transparency about what's in their food. There's voracious lobbying from industry about preventing, that's going to embarrass us. That's going to make us look bad. We, at the baseline, what Bobby Kennedy's saying on food is we need to know what's in it. We have to have accurate science on the chemicals in our food. So what President Trump and Secretary Kennedy have talked about, it's not pro-business, anti-business, it's anti-corruption. We should have scientific guidelines that are not corrupted by industry that tell Americans the truth. We should have transparency for American consumers and lawmakers of what is in our food. We should start with transparency and the truth. That's what President Trump did with his executive order on the MAHA Commission, which is not going to talk about policy. It's just going to lay out the truth of why kids are the sickest in the world, something that lobbyists here are hissing at, something that lobbyists here for some reason have no self-awareness or humility for the state of American children's health. What MAHA is trying to do is there's obviously going to be a lot of work and a lot of lobbying on the Medicare, Medicaid reimbursement rates, but there's something fundamental.
When he says lobbying, he gestures over to the audience.
And I think everyone can agree, fundamentally broken with the incentives of our healthcare systems. Clearly, that's the case. So it's transparency. It's asking fearless questions. It's being led by Jay Bhattacharya, who represents that more than anyone. We're not going to be afraid to give American patients the truth. The truth, by the way, which is really prevented often by lobbyists of the truth getting out because it could be embarrassing to industry. So when you talk about the lobbyists here trying to jab Ozempic into the arm of 30% of 6-year-olds, right? I would argue clinically, maybe sometimes Ozempic's warranted. Maybe it's not an anti-drug situation, but often that 6-year-old needs better food. Often that 6-year-old needs to drive healthcare dollars to a diet coach, to some functional medicine blood tests to understand their nutrient deficiencies, and yes, have some medical incentives to food as medicine. That's what we're talking about with healthcare flexibility.
You do all of that research and work when you're slashing it and cutting
We're
it.
not. Has NIH funding been slashed?
Yes.
No, has research has not been cut.
The funding has been cut.
Research funding has not been cut. The NIH now has the indirect funding. Indirect funding does not. Indirect funding. It's amazing. It's amazing how many people here care about the health of American children. I'm actually inspired. Thank you for the care. Thank you for the care. The administration has put out guidance that they want to direct and cut indirect funding. That fundamentally means more money is going to researchers. The guidance that Bobby Kennedy and the Trump administration put out means more money is going to frontline researchers to do research. There is a very...
So that is the thing that that my friend Bob Duff was talking about for his person who got whacked. So we will see exactly what this means. There was another great moment today where the Democrats met with Linda McMahon, who's the education secretary, and then went out to the podium in front of the Department of Education building and started to slam her.
And they do not have a plan. So they are de facto restructuring this entity along a corporate model without a plan and without an effort to really protect our students. So we want to be clear.
And this was on C-SPAN, probably live. Linda McMahon inside saw that they were talking about the meeting they had just had and walks outside and interacts with them.
About that. I want to say one other thing. The mood in the room, it was very collegial. We are extraordinarily grateful to the secretary that she joined us. Thank you. She's here. Perhaps I should give her the podium.
These are Democrats.
We're extraordinarily grateful that the secretary gave us the space to have these conversations. But with all due respect, madam, I think my biggest concern is that the states will not be able to protect the programs and services that you would like to devolve with them.
And she yields over to Linda McMahon, who had walked out to the podium outside and addresses it.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. And I just want to express my gratitude to all of these folks who came today so that we could have an open discussion about what I believe is one of the most important things that we can have a discussion on or action on in our country, and that is the education.
And now one of the Democrats, this is so funny if you can see this stagecraft happening. The Democrats who were all in a phalanx behind the podium are edging out of the shot now. They don't want to be seen.
Standing with her.
It looks so small.
Of our young people. As Representative Tanaka said as we were ending the meeting.
Rep Tanaka is one of the guys who just shimmied off from behind her.
It was incredibly appropriate, and that is that this is not a partisan issue. This is about the children of America, and it's the next generation, the generation after that, And if we want to have our leaders, if we want to have that next group of engineers and doctors and lawyers and plumbers and electricians and HVAC operators, then we need to focus on how they can best have their education. And I believe, and I know the president does believe this as well, the best education is that is closest to the child, where teachers and parents, local superintendents working together and local school boards to develop the curriculum for those students is the best way that it can happen. Funding from the United States government will continue through the programs that have already been established, and I will look forward to continuing to work with members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, and I welcome the fact that these folks came today and expressed their concerns and shared in an open, collegial format their concerns.
You get it. So there she is. But it was a great move to go out there, and that's what this administration is not playing by normal rules. They are the most heterodox administration. So they're not bound by anything. They do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. And Splash says in the chat, Linda McMahon has been married to Vince McMahon for 55 years. She's not going to get scared or back down. It's true that this whole administration is made up of people who at this point don't care.
Yes.
That's the point of the richest guy in the world running DOGE. It's not so that he can raid your Medicare. He does not need your Medicare. Trust me. The point of him being there is that these are people who are doing it because they literally want to be public servants. These are people doing it because they want to see America be better. You think Elon Musk is doing DOGE for personal enrichment?
No.
It's been nothing but a huge headache to him.
Of course.
It's crazy to think that Donald Trump is being president for personal gain. Donald Trump could just be enjoying his time, like golfing and hanging out at Mar-a-Lago and not bothering anybody.
Right. Well, the only personal gain he got
was not going to prison.
Exactly.
But that wasn't the case before 2016, obviously.
No.
And Elon Musk is getting nothing but trouble and headaches from being in DOGE and being involved politically. He could just shut up and not do anything, not have done anything with Trump, not have done anything with any of these elections, whatever, and he'd have a lot fewer headaches.
Well, and that's the point. The point
like,
is that like you guys were trying to strangle Trump in the crib in doing everything you could to do it. All you did was build his legend.
Right.
You made him who he was. All the things that you did, all the things that you said, all the con jobs you did, all the illegal lawfare crap. You made this guy huge. And now you're going to have Cory Booker stay up for 24 hours and assume that he's going to be seen as legendary as Trump is? It's not going to happen. You don't have anybody like Trump.
The problem is that everybody else in Washington, other than Trump and some of the people that he's brought in, probably not even all the people he's brought in, but some of them at least, is that unlike them, everybody else in Washington did get rich by being in Washington.
Yes. Everybody
else in Washington was not rich before they showed up there and now is.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's from being a quote unquote public servant or some other freaking grift at the taxpayer's expense through some nonprofit or NGO or whatever, like that's why they're all mad.
Oh, yeah.
And they've ginned up a bunch of, relatively innocent taxpayers who just believe the hype about, like, public service and NPR and this and that. Like, all the people who believe all the stuff Dr. Fauci told them believe now that, like, Elon Musk is raiding their bank account or something because they've bought into this fear-mongering that's purely from people who are upset that they're losing their piggy bank.
Oh, it's absolutely true. Absolutely exposed. Totally. As a matter of fact, can I get to... I want to go back to Bob Duff. I hate to do this, but I want him to listen to the audacity of what this Democrat says.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing.
All you're doing to protect us. There is a MAGA goal out there right now that is aiming to make people sick, stupid, and starving. And we've already seen that. We see today where the Attorney General is fighting back from making us sick. We have already seen where the administration has cut back on education. It's going to make they want to make people stupid. And we've seen where they've cut back on food for folks who are needy. They want to see people starving.
Now, of course, they have done none of that. The people who have damaged all three of those silos are Democrats, but it gets better.
It's cruel, it's terrible, and it's disgusting. This is nothing more than the chaos and confusion that we've seen since January the 20th. And it is caving to conspiracies. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. knows full well that vaccines save lives. Donald Trump knows that vaccines save lives.
Who lied about the vaccines? This guy. And all of the Democrats, including the ones in lab coats around Joe Biden, who told us, first they said you can go back to school, and then Weingarten said you can't, and then they said, oh, no, that was her personal opinion. And they said, no, you can't. But they told us to get out there for George Floyd. They told us that the vaccines meant that you wouldn't get or spread COVID anymore. They don't mean that at all.
They both know that research saves lives. And they both know that what they're doing is wrong. But yet, they're caving to conspiracies because that's where the base of their party is today. And I really want to commend our Attorney General, as he said, that are losing their jobs as we. I have a neighbor that gets her salary from the National Institutes of Health. Newborn, he's maybe a year old now. Now you have the President of the United States and his Secretary of Health and Human Services, who are literally breaking their American dream. And they're breaking the backs of our citizens across this country for health care, for their own greed, and for nothing more than tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. If there's so much waste in our government, where is Elon Musk testifying that in Congress today? There is none. They have yet to be able to show anything. If there was any waste.
They're showing it every single day.
Yeah.
It's.
What are you freaking
watching?
You can bet he would be in front of the congressional oversight committees yesterday, but he's not there because he's looking to do nothing more than to break the backs of the people of this country. Again, he wants to make people sick, starving, and stupid. Congressman Raskin just said a little while ago that
maybe it was Tong who said it, but they also, among other things, they said the Republicans are responsible for defunding police.
Oh. By the way, I'm on the HHS website right now about the measles outbreak. This says on it, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., HHS Secretary, March 3, 2025. Blah, 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 blah. Vaccines not only protect individual children from measles, but also contribute to community immunity, protecting those who are unable to be vaccinated due to medical reasons.
Can't be.
He writes that prior to the introduction of the vaccine, virtually every child in the United States contracted measles from 1953 to 1962. On average, there were 440 deaths, a case fatality rate of 1 in 1,200 cases. The current Texas outbreak predominantly affected children, with most of the cases involved in individuals who have not received the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. I mean, what more do you want from? He told people to get the measles vaccine.
It's the grift.
I don't know.
They're saying everything now, including the Republicans defunded police. They're saying everything now because their grift is being discovered. And so they're desperate. They will say everything. Everything. This is like you saw that 60-year-old guy got busted drawing swastikas on the Tesla. And he's like, no, it wasn't me. I wasn't doing that. It didn't even work. I tried it. It didn't work. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. I'm not mad at you. Like, okay. You busted.
I, by the way, saw a video of a mom with young kids with her today. keying a Tesla, and her kids were giving the finger to the camera on the Tesla.
That's excellent.
So that's a good look. I'm excited to see how those kids turn out. I mean, like, have they all lost their minds completely?
Yes.
RFK Jr. told people to get the measles vaccine. Like, what do you want from him?
Right. Well, he didn't disavow. He just didn't disavow.
Like, they want education. Have they noticed that it's been all Democrats and lefties and thugs in charge of education now for a very long time, and they've completely effed it up and kids are dumber than ever? Like, maybe it's time to try something a little different with some of this stuff.
Absolutely. So let's get to the Day of Liberation. I got to tell you that even this morning, I was a little nervous about the Day of Liberation and all of the tariffs.
What did you think was going to happen?
Oh, no, just all the tariffs. But the way they've talked about it today and the way it rolled out and the information dropped out there, I feel a lot better about it. I didn't know what was going to happen. It's the trepidation you have when something's just totally new to you. You know, so the tariff war is a new thing for me. And so I didn't know what to think, but the Trump speech was fantastic on this, by the way.
In the coming days, there will be complaints from the globalists and the outsourcers and special interests and the fake news. The fake news will always complain. But never forget, every prediction our opponents made about trade for the last 30 years has been proven totally wrong. They were wrong about NAFTA. They were wrong about China. They were wrong about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a disaster if I didn't terminate it. If I didn't terminate that, United Auto Workers, you would have had no jobs in this country. You would have had no jobs. It was all going to other countries. In my first...
This is like 110 people there in the Rose Garden are part of the constituency that he stole from the Democrats, which is freaking fantastic.
Term, they said tariffs would crash the economy. Instead, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. And again, I have great respect for President Xi of China, great respect for China, but they were taking tremendous advantage of us, and I commend them for that. I say, hey, if you can get away with it, that's okay.
Who talks like this? Like, nobody talks like this except for him. And that's why, even though, yes, he's a bleep talker in the Washington Post, when they only counted lies for 4 years, could say he's lied 41,000 times. But there's never been a more truthful president or politician in the history of this country than what you're seeing here.
Yeah, and I think what's really telling about all of this is I don't think anybody knows how this is going to shake out. I think a lot of people have all the like economic theory on paper, and sometimes that works out the way they think it's going to, and sometimes it doesn't. And some of this is partially just a negotiating tactic. I know that in his last presidency, it worked out fine. And not only did it work out fine, it worked out so fine that Biden and Kamala kept the tariffs that he had at that time. I mean, the conventional wisdom in economics has been that this is really bad. I guess we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I'm along for the ride. We'll see what happens. I don't think that Trump is going to deliberately crash the economy.
I agree with you.
But, they understand exactly what's happening, and they probably, most of them are saying it's about time they did something, but, and they're going to fight, and they're going to fight fair. Everyone's going to fight. You know, it's like, I say to the leaders, look, you got to take care of your country, but we have to start taking care of our country now. We can't do what we've been doing for the last 50 years.
This dude is the most reasonable and sensible world leader alive right now. He is. It's like, and also he's very calm. And if you see him answer questions, he is. I can't wait to hear from Bill Maher this weekend. But you're hearing more about that.
The funny thing is, too, is if the Democrats would just shut up and like act sane and butter up Trump a little bit and talk to him, they could get all kinds of stuff passed that they want.
Oh, totally.
All they would have to do is be like, Trump, wow, you're awesome. And then they could go in there and tell him a bunch of stuff and he'd be like, yeah, cool, I'll sign that. And they could pass stuff. Like, they could get all kinds of stuff done with this guy if they felt like it. They just don't want to because they make more like fundraising money and get more famous by being big resistance leaders who break the world record for the most time wasted in the Senate.
And that's right. And the Democrat Party has poisoned its base. They wanted them to be poisoned. They wanted them to lose their minds, and now they are. And these people who are lighting Teslas on fire right now, these people are professionals. This is their base. They turn them into these zombies now. And now it's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to deprogram this.
Well,
so they're stuck.
Unlike Trump, they're scared of not being reelected because they make all their money this way.
Yes.
If Trump dismantles the revolving door of consultancy and NGOs and all these things, what would Cory Booker do with his time? How would Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez make money?
No idea.
If we didn't have this free supply of tax money going to every nonprofit, every law firm, every consulting firm, everything in the Washington, D.C. area, then, how would any of these people make a living if they didn't get reelected and they did? So they're scared of their base. They're literally beholden to voters in a way that Trump is not, in a way that Elon Musk is not, and now they've made their voters insane. So now the only thing they have to do to keep their voters happy with them is to continue to up the ante of crazy.
And remember, that was proven because right after the election, some Democrats said, oh, I guess we're going to have to work with him. And their voters went nuts on them and said, what do you mean? You said he was a Nazi. Why are you working with Nazis? And that's why the Democrat voters hate Democrats.
Right.
So now the rest who were survived are like, oh, okay, he's still a Nazi? He's still a Nazi? Burn it all down? Burn the Tesla? It's like, you okay? It's beautiful, actually, is what it is. Let's go to the chat, Albie.
All right, let's go.
Hey, Tom. Kerry from Winchester's husband here.
Hey, it's been a while. I'm actually wearing the shirt I wore, the Trump shirt from the inauguration party that we had. It didn't fit well then. It fits less well now. As I continue to expand.
Your rant on Glengarry Glen Ross is fine.
Yes.
But you're missing the point that you couldn't know that you're missing.
What?
Which is that scene, the Alec Baldwin scene.
Yeah.
And I'll let Steve from Merrimack do all the lines from it because he knew much funnier than me. But second place, set of steak knives. Third place, you're fired.
Yeah.
Coffees for winners, all that stuff. Everyone loves that scene.
Yeah.
So my buddy went to see the play in New York the weekend before, opening night or something. It was whatever, the first weekend. And they've apparently cut the scene. But I don't know if you know this. That was originally a play that got adapted to a movie.
Yep.
And now adapted back to a play. And that scene was never in the original play.
Oh.
It was basically made for Alec Baldwin. So I only see him the one time in the movie. But now that it's back to a play, they've cut that scene. And people that love the movie are going to see it, and they're really disappointed. And I think that's more the story than anything else.
Wow.
And that's all I get to say. Thanks. Bye.
That is interesting because it's still a good movie without that scene, but Baldwin's so good.
We watched some of that show last night.
Oh, yeah, Steve. We did watch some of the show. And I like it. I will be watching it again. I do feel bad for him. I feel like that she's got something on him. I think he knows that she's touched. That she's not okay, and she's not a great thinker. And they're trying to be very hot and messy, loading all the kids in this, and he's playing along with it. He's obviously in this ride to help with the PR resuscitation that he's looking for. She is out of control. She believes her own press. She believes that these people they pay to say they're great. She believes in that paid adulation. It is adulation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Whew. I can have that one. But I like him. I do like him.
But yeah, them being like, oh my God, this is crazy. We have 75 kids and 3 nannies, and it's so impossible. How do we do it?
How do we get from New York City to the Hamptons in New York?
Oh my God, this is like planning D-Day. How do we do it?
Okay.
Wow, Tom. Bad job by you. You've
What?
never introduced Alice to Lenny and the Squigtones? Come on. You're telling me you've never played night after night in the kitchen while you're cooking or something? Oh, man, Tom, do better. You got to introduce her to Lenny and the Squigtones.
I forgot about Lenny and the Squigtones. I did like... Have you ever heard of Laverne and Shirley, Alice?
I've heard those words together in that order.
So Lenny and
I don't
Squiggy
know
were
what
in Laverne and Shirley. They probably had their own thing, too. Michael McKean is one of those. He was in all of the Groundlings were in a bunch of stuff, including all of the what's the one with the pet show, Waiting for Guffman in the pet show, First in Show, I think, all of those things.
Best in Show?
Best in Show, yeah. So
okay.
that's their group of people, and they're very good. But Lenny and Squeaky, I'm pretty sure Squeaky is dead. Too bad. But it's not. I didn't know the song, Steve. I'd forgotten. It's funny, Steve, because I'm older than you, but I didn't remember the song from Laverne and Shirley. I did appreciate the show. I was glad it was there. I always liked the theme song.
Didn't the Best in Show people do something else later that I did see, that I did know about?
Is it Waiting for Guffman?
No. Like more modern than the Best in Show, I think.
Probably.
Go ahead. I'll look it up.
Hey, guys. Andy in Cambridge, 5 minutes east of the Phoenix Landing.
Hey, Andy.
And you did it.
Uh-oh.
Alice, what is wrong with you that you don't know who Cliff Clavin and Norm from Cheers are?
That is tough.
I don't care how young you are. They have these things called reruns on the TV.
I don't really watch much television.
Well, but Alice, it was culturally very iconic. Cheers. Norm, Sam Malone.
Oh, wait. Can I tell you a story about something that happened to me on the train
Have you been to the Cheers bar?
No.
Okay.
No, maybe
I've
with
never
you we
taken-
went into it.
I would have. I actually quite liked the Cheers bar. The back room was nice, or was. And I'm a Tom Kershaw guy.
So, I have to tell you something that's funny that happened on the train today, because I was riding the Orange Line and there were a million people
So
on it,
you
and it
are,
was
Alice.
all
I've
packed
said
together.
that I consider you beautiful. Deviled eggs are good. You did find that story that Howie had earlier. I do not have any faith that this is going to be funny, but please, go ahead.
So these two girls are sitting next to each other. They're texting a guy that one of them has started dating.
Yep.
So they're texting him, and one of them
doesn't know that they're together.
No, he's just texting this
Women are
girl that
evil,
he
that's
started
fine,
dating, and she's sitting with her friend on the train, and they're both reading his text and deciding what to answer him.
Ooh, what a setup. Oh, women are evil. Were they hot? That's what Steve wants to know.
I mean, they
What do I
were
call them, hot?
young, I think they were like fairly attractive, but they were making style choices that made them like
Style like nose rings or style like
like pink and green eyeshadow, nose rings, short bangs, like
Okay, gotcha.
like, you know. Anyway, so they're sitting here talking, and one of them goes, well, at least he like knows who the friends' characters are. It was like a good start to a conversation.
Yeah.
And it transpires as they continue that they're arguing with him. Well, he thinks he's just arguing with this girl.
Right.
About who's at fault between Ross and Rachel.
Oh my God. These are people who were not born when Ross and Rachel were having their conflict.
No, that's why, like, well, at least he knows the friends' characters. So,
Right.
like, at least that's something, one positive about it, which is like, how is that your standards, first of all?
If I was a 24-year-old man today, I would be marinating in Friends episodes just for things like this. If it's that important, TikTok tells me that single ladies want to know that I know about Friends.
Oh, but you better not have the wrong opinion about it, because apparently he told them over text that Ross could have done way better.
Ooh. Jesus, dude. Oh. Why don't you take a shot at Taylor Swift while you're at it? Oh, come on.
And then, so they're like arguing with him back and forth about like leaving at the altar and like whatever, all this stuff, and who's the problem. And
me and my friend Mike, who people have met at who met Ben at the party. Mike was there, who was with Paul. He and I later on into our 20s used to go to a bar, the Hub Pub in Boston, which was kind of a dive bar. It was a great bar. Probably still is a great bar. And we I was not a good wingman because I had no game. And Mike would wait till the wee hours of the morning when people would generally be more hospitable. That's my theory anyway. So, but anyway, since we worked at the hotel, we would send flight crews, because the stewardesses, the flight attendants, the chicks, would stay at the hotel. So I would send them, and Mike would send them to the Hub Hub. They would say, like, what's nice in Boston? I was like, the most iconic place in Boston, where we go, where it's not touristy, though, but it's where I would go, is the Hub Hub. So we'd send them to the Hub Hub, and hopefully later on didn't hit on them. There'll be And I remember 2 separate times where, like, we gloriously, like, just absolutely burned in, like, what was terrible. One time there was a beautiful woman, I think this was American Airlines, and I was talking to her, and she was talking to me, and things were going well. And I said, do you know that my mother was a stewardess? My mother was a stewardess on Pan Am, and then she was a stewardess for Northeast Yellowbird, and then she was on the Air Force One at the time. She used to tell me about, and eventually she said, and I had to get the guts up to even talk to, but she seemed to be receptive. And she eventually, like, took a drink of her thing and then, like, started to swivel in her chair away from me and said, why do you keep talking about your mother? I see, because I'm a little pansy boy who needs to talk about my mommy and be as ick as hell to you. But that's not, Mike was worse. And by the way, we were probably had a couple of beers in us. At a different time, Mike decided to relive with these girls we were talking to exactly how gruesome the deaths were at the hands of Al-Qaeda for some of the stewardesses. He was like, yeah, they cut their throats. It was like, really, like, wow. And these stewardesses, like, American Airlines one of the flights was an American Airlines flight.
Yeah.
But, it was stream of consciousness. He was just remembering, it's their stewardesses. And that was such a move that I'm so glad it wasn't me who made it. But that usually would have been. I would have been, like, realizing, wait a second, maybe they don't want to. Maybe this is not making them in the mood to hook up with us. Oh, rough. Mike is, sadly for me, he's had a resurgence in his middle age now with the ladies.
But you didn't diss Rachel to them from Friends?
No, I was a Rachel guy. Ross was such a bitch, though. I was like, but Rachel was also, she was hooking up with everybody. I mean, I think all of us, we all went from loving Ross because he was cute and funny and like
I always liked Ross.
Of course you did. And when he got rid of the Monkey was a good sign. And then you go, Courtney Cox was the hottest, obviously. Then Phoebe was the most fun and
but
cute.
Crazy, yeah.
Right, but as far as the guys go, from Ross immediately became a bitch and was for the rest of the show. Chandler was the man forever. But then at the end of the day, you realize the only non-bitch guy in the whole thing is Joey. So at the end, Joey is the guy. See, I know my friends. We're right, but that was Jennifer Aniston in that Rolling Stone magazine shot. I mean, come on. Anybody who's near my age, you guys all know this. Did I finish Andy's message or not?
Andy's message?
Andy in Cambridge.
Oh.
Hold on.
Hey, guys. Cheers are, I don't care how young you are.
Okay, yeah.
They have these things called reruns on the TV.
The TV.
And trust me, you should know everything about Cheers. As a girl who grew up in, I know Lexington isn't really greater Boston, but it's kind of greater Boston. Cheers, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Andy. Although I don't know.
The song is nice from Cheers.
Ugh, Jesus. What is the band, Alice?
I don't know.
Is the Rembrandts. They had just disbanded, and the song forced them to get back together and tour. It's not a great song. I mean, for a theme song, it is a good song. I guess
it's a pretty nice
song. Any other Cheers things? Terry Garr, who always reminded me of Phoebe, went on to play her mother in Cheers. Terry Garr, who you should have a special connection with.
Why should I?
You know why you should. We said it 4 years ago, Alice, on this show.
I know that doesn't make me feel a special connection with her.
It doesn't?
No.
Did I think of her?
I don't feel a special connection with porn actresses you like either.
What? I don't think of porn actresses, Alice. You've played the part of Terry Garr.
I have not played the part
of
Terry Garr.
Have.
No, I haven't.
Well, that's who I'm thinking of. So, and you're thinking of me, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
Because I'm present in the moment.
That's the move that you'd make as a lovely woman, is to think of the reality of me.
But I'm really with you, though.
Absolutely.
Hi, Steve from America.
Hey, Steve.
Alice, mon chéri, I want to thank you for highlighting my favorite French playwright, David Mamet. Oui, oui, bonjour, croissant, etc. Oh, my favorite films of his are Chateau of Games. It's actually called House of Games because he's now French. It's Chateau of Games. Glen Gally, Glen Ross. Le postman always rings deux, twice deux. And of course, Le Edge. Starring Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins. How do you say cucumber? Mon amour. And I'm also reminded of Jackie Martling, since we're cooking all things French. Jackie Martling on the Howard Stern show, who once said, "The French, they are a funny race. They fight with their feet and F with their face." Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't remember Jackie Martling saying that. Do you know Jackie Martling else?
No. I don't know a lot of things. A lot of things. I know a lot of other things, but they're very far apart from each other. Like the things I don't know about are very empty.
Can you think of some other actors? I'm thinking of two in particular. Three other actors who were on Friends, but who subsequently were famous or got famous other places.
I definitely know at least one.
Okay.
I did it.
We'll take that now. What is one of them?
Like we've talked about at least one on here.
That should be easy then. Go ahead. Sally. Come here. Okay. She's not coming.
The good news is that if anything ever happens to you and I have
You can't think of any other actors who were showing up on Friends. It didn't occur to you.
The one from Role Models.
That is right. That is right. Paul Rudd was on Friends. That is correct.
There you go. Okay, see, I got one.
How about Brad Pitt?
Oh, I forgot that.
Do you know who Elliot Gould is?
No.
Probably not. Okay, there we go. Do you know who Tom Selleck is?
I've heard the name.
Okay, he was actually on a great Ted Danson podcast. Ted Danson.
Was that the mustache guy?
Yes, the mustache guy.
That you
that
were
everybody
watching
my
that.
age's mother wanted to sleep with. This is everybody who's the age of my mother was thinking of Tom Selleck when they had sex with their father.
See,
actually, my
look,
father.
I thought of
Whose
two.
father?
See?
The mustache guy. Is that the guy in the Pringles can?
Okay. Thank you guys. I appreciate the chat messages. Thank you for having fun with us in the chat. It will be a live show for everybody tomorrow. If you want to join the live chat every day, you can do that at patreon.com/burnbarrel. At least free burnbarrelpodcast.com.
C'est la vie.